Something changed overnight. And if you missed it, you might not understand what is actually happening right now in one of the most dangerous corners of the world. For 2 weeks, this looked like a distant war. Missiles launched from altitude, drones guided by satellite, strikes delivered from thousands of feet in the air, clean, remote, controlled. But in the last 24 hours, the United States made a decision that quietly shifts everything. And the person at the center of it all gave an answer to journalists that stopped the room cold. We will get to that answer in just a moment, because it tells you more about where this conflict is heading than any official statement ever could. Before we go further, we want to hear from you. Are you watching from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, or somewhere else in the world? Drop your location in the comments below. It helps us understand who our audience is, and we read every single response. Now, let us go back to the beginning, because to understand what is unfolding today, you need to understand the geography, the strategy, and the stakes involved. The Strait of Hormuz is not simply a body of water. It is the artery through which nearly 1/5 of the world's oil supply flows every single day. Tankers from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates all pass through this narrow corridor before their cargo reaches refineries and fuel pumps across the globe. At its tightest point, the strait measures roughly 33 kilometers wide. That is not much space when you consider what is at stake. Disrupt this passage for long enough, and energy markets around the world begin to fracture. Iran has known this for decades, and it has spent years preparing for exactly this kind of confrontation. Rather than trying to match American naval power ship for ship, Iranian military planners built something more calculated. A network of coastal missile batteries, some mobile, some hidden in underground tunnels, carved into the mountains overlooking the Gulf. Fast attack boats, naval mines, surveillance systems, watching every vessel that moves through the channel. The goal was never to win a traditional naval battle. The goal was simpler and more disruptive. Make the strait too dangerous to use, and that strategy is now being tested in real time. For the first phase of this conflict, the approach from the American and Israeli side was air dominant. Bombers, fighter jets, long-range drones, and precision weapons targeted Iranian military infrastructure in wave after wave of strikes. According to military briefings, the number of targets hit since the opening days of the conflict runs into the tens of thousands. Radar installations, missile launch sites, command and communications facilities. The campaign was designed to degrade Iran's ability to threaten the region from a safe distance, without committing troops on the ground. For a time, it appeared this model might hold strike from the air, limit exposure, keep the conflict contained, but air power has a ceiling. And here is the problem that military planners have long understood. You can destroy a missile launcher from the air, but you cannot always find the next one before it moves. Iran's coastal defense systems are built around mobility and concealment. Destroy one position, and another emerges somewhere along the same coastline. Iranian officials have continued to claim that their forces remain operational, despite the sustained bombing campaign. That reality appears to have driven the decision, now drawing global attention. The Pentagon has confirmed the deployment of 2,200 United States Marines aboard the USS Tripoli, an amphibious assault ship moving toward the Strait of Hormuz. Officially, the stated mission is to reopen and secure the vital shipping lanes running through the corridor. But those who follow military strategy closely will tell you something important. Marines are not sent to observe. They are not sent to patrol from a distance. Marine expeditionary units are designed for rapid assault, amphibious landings, and physical control of territory. Sending them into a contested maritime environment, like the Strait of Hormuz, is a signal, and signals in warfare carry enormous weight. This is the moment the conflict shifts. When forces move from the air into the sea and potentially onto contested coastlines, the risks multiply in ways that are difficult to predict and even harder to control. Ships and landing craft are far more exposed than aircraft. They move slower, they carry people, and in waters watched by Iranian coastal missile systems, even a single miscalculation could trigger a cascade of events that no one on either side has fully planned for. Now consider what President Trump said when reporters asked him directly, "When does this war end?" He paused, and then he said this, "When I feel it in my bones." Not a timeline, not a set of conditions, not a diplomatic threshold, A feeling analysts across the political spectrum noted the unusual nature of that response. Supporters of the administration argue it reflects a deliberate unpredictability, a strategy designed to keep adversaries uncertain and off balance. Critics, however, raised a different concern that the absence of a clear endgame in a rapidly expanding conflict is itself a risk. Wars without defined objectives, they argue, have a way of growing beyond anyone's original intention. What do you think? Was that answer a sign of strategic confidence or something else? Share your thoughts in the comments. We are genuinely curious what you see in it. Meanwhile, the economic pressure is already spreading far beyond the region. Shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has reportedly collapsed dramatically as companies weigh the dangers of moving vessels through an active conflict zone. Insurance providers, whose coverage is legally required for most large cargo and tanker operations, have begun withdrawing from the area entirely. Without war risk coverage, even companies willing to take the risk legally cannot proceed. The effects are immediate. Oil prices have surged and swung sharply as energy traders attempt to calculate how long this disruption might last. Several governments have moved to release oil from their strategic petroleum reserves, a short-term measure designed to calm markets and signal stability. But those reserves have limits. They were built for emergencies, not as a substitute for one of the world's most critical energy corridors operating indefinitely under threat. The longer the strait remains unstable, the deeper the pressure spreads, not just to fuel prices at the pump, but to supply chains, manufacturing costs, airline operations, and the broader global economy. And here is where the strategic picture becomes genuinely complex. Iran has repeatedly framed this confrontation not simply as a military dispute, but as a struggle over sovereignty and regional influence. Iranian leadership has signaled no intention of stepping back. The airstrikes, they argue, have only strengthened the case for resistance. Whether that posture reflects genuine confidence in their defensive capabilities, or whether it is designed to buy time for negotiations, is a question analysts are actively debating. What is clear is that neither side has yet reached a point where the cost of continuing outweighs the cost of stepping back. That balance could shift. It often does in conflicts like this. A single unexpected event, a ship struck in the strait, a miscalculation at sea, a diplomatic channel that suddenly opens. Any one of these could change the trajectory within hours. History shows us that the most consequential moments in military conflicts are rarely the ones that were planned in advance. So where does this go from here? If the Marines successfully establish a presence that reopens the strait to commercial shipping, it would represent a significant tactical achievement. Energy markets would stabilize, at least temporarily. The pressure on Iran's coastal defenses would intensify, and the administration could point to a concrete outcome in a conflict that has, until now, produced mostly airstrikes and uncertainty. But if the deployment draws Iran into a direct confrontation at sea, the conflict enters territory that is far more difficult to manage. Amphibious operations near heavily fortified coastlines carry risks that air campaigns simply do not. The war that began in the sky could find itself being fought in ways no one initially anticipated. This is the moment worth watching. Not the rhetoric, not the press conferences, the movement of ships, because wars are often decided not by the side that speaks loudest, but by the side that holds the most critical geography when the pressure becomes unsustainable. And right now, the Strait of Hormuz is the most critical piece of geography on the planet. We want to hear your perspective on this. Do you think the deployment of ground forces changes this conflict in a meaningful way? Or do you believe a diplomatic resolution is still possible before this escalates further? Leave your thoughts in the comments section. Every perspective matters, and this conversation is better when more voices are part of it. If you found this analysis clear and useful, please consider subscribing to this channel. We cover major political and geopolitical developments with depth, balance, and respect for the intelligence of our audience. There are no easy answers in situations like this one, but there is always value in understanding them clearly. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay with us as this story continues to develop. We will be here.